So hello everyone and welcome to the Long Branch Free Public Library Small Business Roundtable discussion. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Mariela Osario and I work in the library's Technology and Career Center. And today I'm going to have to mute. Hold on, bear with me. 1 second. So sorry.
You are muted.
One moment while I mute everyone. Okay, there we go. All right. Yes, we are fortunate to host a conversation entitled COVID-19 Business Lessons Learned with important leaders from across the small business spectrum. Before I begin, I do want to let everyone know that today's conversation is being recorded to share with those who were unable to attend and for future archive. After the discussion, the panelists will be happy to address any questions the audience may have. We only ask that you please hold all inquiries until after the roundtable. All right, so without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our panelists. We have Mr. Hal Shelton. If I can hold on 1 second, here we go. One moment, please. Mr. Hal Shelton. He is a seasoned executive with corporations, nonprofits, and investment organizations. He uses his knowledge and expertise to help small businesses be successful. In the corporate world, Hal was a CFO of a New York Stock Exchange listed alternative energy company. At SCORE, a volunteer organization that provides education and training to small businesses, Hal helps small businesses take advantage of new business opportunities, develop business plans, and helps them find and qualify for financing with the goal of increasing the business's value as well as adding jobs. Additionally, Hal served on the SCORE National Board of Directors, and he is the author of Amazon's best-selling book, The Secrets to Writing a Successful Business Plan. Dr. Robin Sakina Mama is the Dean of the School of Social Work at Monmouth University. Before entering academia, Dean Mama was a staff member at the Philadelphia Area Project on Occupational Safety and Health, a labor organization that worked for better health and safety conditions for workers and unions in the tri-state Delaware Valley area. A full professor at Monmouth, Dr. Mama teaches in the International and Community Development concentration of the MSW program. She serves as the representative of the International Federation of Social Workers to the United Nations in New York City and is the chair of the International Committee of NASW National. She is also on the executive board of the International Organization for Women and Development. Also with us today, representing Freehold Bank, we have Mr. James Wainwright, President and CEO, Mr. Kevin Hunt, Senior Vice President and Chief Lending Officer, and Ms. Hilary Delamoth, Assistant Vice President and Branch Manager. Last but not least, we are fortunate to have a small business owner, Saul Galindo, and his daughter, Isis Galindo of Galindo's Kitchen. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Hal, I would like to begin with you because you are at the forefront of this conversation. I would like to explain to everyone that it was Hal's article entitled COVID-19 Business Lessons Learned that actually inspired today's roundtable. Hal, in your article, you stated that these are difficult times not only for small businesses, but all businesses, and that the usual ways of gaining and conducting business have been upended. Can you please expand on that? What lessons have been learned and how can entrepreneurs forge ahead?
Okay, thanks, Mariela. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists and everybody on the call. Good to be with you, and thanks, Mariela, for setting this up to support the Long Branch small business community. Yes, I did write the blog, and if you want to see the whole thing, you can go to score.org. search on my name and you'll find the blog and all the other blogs I've written about small business topics. And you'll also see all the offerings that SCORE has to help people start up a business or those in business to run it more effectively. And while on the notion of SCORE, everybody can reach out to get a personal SCORE mentor one-on-one. Just go to score.org, or if you want to reach the chapter located in the Long Branch area, just go to monmouth.score.org. And since you all going to have access to the blog, I'm not going to read it to you, spare you all that, but I want to point out a couple of things which will address the questions that you just asked me. So the first thing to point out is and emphasize is know your customers, know your vendors, know your contractors, because while the crisis might not impact you directly, it might not have been in your building or in your business, it might clearly impact those who serve you on products or services, or from your customers who you need to sell to and get paid. And for those who support your business, what I'm finding is people are now creating multiple sources of supply. That in fact, if one cannot provide materials to you, you have choices. And if you don't have enough business to justify two suppliers, at least have a backup in mind. And I'm also noticing many entrepreneurs are using online services and cloud-based services when they're available. The second area is know your banker. And I'm sure the panelists from Freehold Bank will have a lot more to say about that. One of the things I noticed in working with a lot of small businesses just recently, that where they thought they had a good relationship with a bank, when it came time to apply for the PPP loans, the Payroll Protection Program loans, those banks left them behind and were not helpful, and they really had to scramble at the last minute to find another loan processor. Not surprisingly, those entrepreneurs are now changing their banking relationship to find one who will service their needs. The third area to emphasize is that some for the first time learned, and many were reminded that during this kind of crisis, cash is king. And I'll say that louder and stronger, cash is king. While your sales might be dropping, you need to know, do you have enough cash to pay your staff, to pay yourself, to pay your taxes, your utility bills, the planned marketing program that you had? And so there's three particular things that you can be doing in this area. One is to have a line of credit with your bank. And for those who have a line of credit, get a bigger one because a line of credit can be your safety net. The second is have a cash forecast. And for many, that's not their strong suit in doing that kind of math and number generation. So contact a SCORE mentor. They'll help you through it. They'll give you some templates to help you through it. The forecast should be for about 6 months in duration, and it should be in increments of month or your payroll cycle. And then the third area in that cash is king, have a sufficient cash on hand, and whatever that means for your business. It could be 3 months of cash in the bank. It could be enough to meet 2 payroll cycles. And importantly, know how long it's going to take you to get new cash in a crisis if you need it. The fourth and final area, just for emphasis, is be a leader. Leadership is about having a plan and taking action, having thought through the issues, have a coherent strategy, and reach out to others for advice. You don't have to know it all. Rely on people who have been through these kinds of crises before. It's neither at one end being a Pollyanna and thinking everything will work out okay and I don't need to do anything, or on the other end, it's not being a Chicken Little and just go around crying to everybody that the sky is falling. communicate in a measured way with your team, your customers, your vendors, your service partners. No one likes surprises, and you set the tone by the way you communicate. So let me stop there, give the other panelists a chance to make some comments, and then we'll get to the more important Q&A, which is usually what the participants like best.
Right, right. Thank you so much for that, Hal. I really do appreciate it. And again, we will be leaving all questions for the panelists at the end of the discussion. So I now would like to turn to Dean Mama. Dean Mama, hello, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
COVID-19 has radically readjusted our social routines. Could you share some insight about how the coronavirus could have far-reaching impacts on our social structures and routines?
Sure, thank you. All of us have been, I would say, discombobulated by COVID-19 in one way or another. And even if you're an organized person in general, because we had to lock down, we had to stay at home, we had to socially distance and change the way we do things to keep ourselves safe from being ill, it meant that everything sort of just went off the table, right? If you're not going to work or you don't have your routine of going to work. If you had to stay in the home, depending on what your space was like, you could either feel like you were in confinement or you had an okay place to be. We've seen people who have been in very small apartments, and many times family members are coming to live with you. I know we had our children home for 8 weeks. My husband was home a little bit as well, and depending on the size of your space, people either fit or they don't, and everyone is on Zoom. Right? We're all doing these kinds of things, these meetings, classes, all kinds of stuff through this way. But with everybody talking, it's very hard to concentrate, to get your work done and to figure out how to do that. But the other thing is that the fact that we've had to be distant and not in contact with each other also means that there's much more isolation that's out there right at the moment. And we're seeing increases in alcohol consumption, right? Because we don't know what to do with ourselves. Maybe we're bored, maybe we've lost our habits, our good habits. We're seeing increases in domestic violence. We're seeing increases in all kinds of mental health issues that maybe people had under control for a long time. But because of the loss of routine and the loss of structure, we have lost the ability sometimes to really be good and to be able to maintain the health that we had, both the mental health as well as the physical health. And so, we're seeing a lot of issues that are coming through. What's interesting is that telehealth, it has been around for a long time. Last 10 years, I would say we've seen an increase in people doing more telehealth therapy. The School of Social Work this year created a telehealth clinic at Monmouth University so that we could serve residents in our community. So we're doing it as a way to give our students a field internship, because we had to switch our field internships all to remote internships in March. And as we go through, the university is still open. We're still going to be opening in the fall, and students in social work, as well as other professional programs, need internships or clinicals. And so our graduate students in social work are manning this telehealth clinic along with 4 of our clinical faculty. And it's free and open to anyone in the state of New Jersey who needs some counseling or to talk to anyone. So that was a response we had to the fact that, this is hurting us in different ways. I also listened to something very interesting on NPR yesterday about the other effects of being socially isolated and at home in the air conditioning and the heating and electric that we're using, right? Especially with the hot summer, we're seeing brownouts. California is now putting timed brownouts all throughout the state to try to conserve some of the electric, because with everybody home, there are more lights on, there are more computers on, we're all using Wi-Fi. People are having to upgrade their data if they, or pay for more because they need to have Wi-Fi and they need to be on it all the time. Water use, right? Lots of people in the house, everybody's taking showers, you know, we're cooking more. When my children were home, I felt like I was either in the kitchen or I was on a Zoom call, you know, one or the other. And so it's really interesting to think about some of the structural things that we take for granted, which now we might have to think about a little bit more. There have been many times, actually even just before we started this meeting, I thought I had lost internet. You know, for 5 minutes, and that's becoming more commonplace for a lot of people. So when you rely on these pieces of electronics, then, you know, that can also be very disconcerting and also throw a wrench into your day.
Dean Mama, lawmakers are negotiating a new coronavirus relief legislation that would allow the hardest hit businesses to receive a second PPP loan. The Center for Responsible Lending, a nonprofit that works to stamp out predatory lending, cited that 90% of minority and women-owned small businesses did not get access to the PPP. With many businesses still shuttered or operating in reduced capacities, why do you think owners weren't seeing more of the money? And should this legislation pass, could that finally change?
So one of the things that Hal mentioned, which is something that I've been reading about this, is that these initial loans went to larger organizations and people who already had established credit and had taken loans at banks. There was a relationship with banks. And you know, a small business survey of which was online, of about 500 African-American small business owners said that only 12% received the full assistance that they had requested, and 2/3 didn't get anything. So one of the issues is, you know, the relationship with the banks and where they were giving this money first, and they were giving it to larger organizations. The other thing is that, you know, a lot of times women and people of color have been left out of conversations around how do you reorganize policy in certain areas. You know, so for example, legislators who are making these pieces of legislation and writing them have not talked to women or to minorities who own small businesses about what some of the barriers are for them to get started and for them to get loans. And so this new bill, that if it gets passed, would change some of the requirements, it seems. And I think only time will tell to see if it works. So instead of having the banks being the intermediary in some ways, the community development financial institutions are some of the point persons for this new stimulus money, because they serve underserved communities and the rural communities more than some of the established banks do. And then they've loosened some of the requirements as to how long, you know, in the beginning when these were given, you only had 8 weeks to spend the money you were given, and 75% of it had to go to your payroll. Now there's a requirement of 24 weeks. You have a longer period of time to spend this money, and only 60% of it has to go to payroll. And I think what it sounds like is that these are going to look more like grants rather than loans. And so that's an interesting, you know, diversion and thing to think about, because a grant gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of where you spend things and how you spend. So we'll see. I mean, it would be really nice if they would dive down into it, but there's a historical trend for small business owners. You know, one of the things I found online was that 95% of African-American self-owned businesses have no employees.
Yeah.
They're you know, one and done. And 91% of those of Latinx small-owned businesses have no employees, compared to 78% of white-owned small businesses. So, you know, there are real differences between small business owners in the whole cadre of who those people are. And I think we just have to try to take into consideration all of the different ways that they try to do business.
Right. Absolutely. Dean Mama, one last question. A group that has kind of been lost in the shuffle are people with disabilities. And I wanted to ask you, what is the impact of COVID-19 on work, income, and livelihood of persons with disabilities?
So some of the things we've already talked about impact people with disability as well. There are it's estimated that there are about 1 million people around the globe that are considered a person with a disability. And you know, those are physical disabilities as well as cognitive disabilities, as well as mental health issues. And so, you know, all the things that it have impact everyone will impact them, sometimes a little greater, depending on what the disability is. So for example, if you are physically disabled and you rely on other people to help you, you're already raising the risk of your possibly getting sick and not really truly being able to socially distance the way, you know, we've been asked to do that by the CDC and other public health officials. But I think the other thing that happens is that a lot of people who are disabled work in what we would call the informal work sector. They're not necessarily in the formal work sector. So some of them may be small business owners, some of them may be consultants, some of them may be they're already doing work from home, but now we've just increased their social isolation. And yeah, I think isolation is one of the biggest pieces for them in this whole environment. We unfortunately, in our program at Monmouth, for example, lost a veteran at the end of last semester to suicide, who had PTSD issues and a lot of trauma from his deployments, and the isolation and not being in a routine and not being at school and not being able to see the people he normally would see, his demons all came back. And unfortunately, he took his life. And even though people were trying to reach out to him and trying to connect with him, it's very easy in social media to cut yourself off and to not respond. It's different when you see someone in person, you know, physically. And so, you know, those are the kinds of things we have to worry about with people with disabilities.
Right. Thank you very much, Dean Mama. I really appreciate it. Now I would like to turn to Freehold Bank. Mr. Wainwright, I'd like to begin with you. Mr. Wainwright?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, very good.
Good, good. Freehold Bank is Monmouth County's oldest savings institution, being founded in 1853. I am sure it's fair to say that your bank has had its share of challenging times. How did you weather this latest crisis? For example, were you able to keep all your employees?
Yes, we kept them at their full pay. We had a number of employees that we shuttered their working schedules so we could limit the amount of people that are in the building. And some of our employees work from home remotely. So yeah, we from that standpoint, we fared a lot better than we anticipated.
Okay. In a recent article, the Asbury Park Press characterized you as financial frontline responders, noting that the closing of loans in the parking lot and literally working around the clock. Could you please expand on that? How did that go about?
Sure. Well, a frontline responder is really no different than a person who works in healthcare. They first of all, they should protect themselves first before they can help others. And that's exactly what we did here at the bank. We limited access to to coming inside the bank to protect our employees. So as we try to take every precaution, we had to be innovative and flexible how we did business. So strangely enough, Kevin, my coworker here, chief lending officer, said, we'll put up 2 tables in the parking lot. We'll ask our customers, and these are PPP customers, to come with their mask on, gloves on. At that time, gloves was in vogue,
Right.
and come with their pen,
Sure.
so they can sign the documents and then take the pen with them.
Okay.
So we had to pick. So this was early April, so we had to pick days that weren't raining. So unfortunately, the few times that we did this, it was rather chilly. So it was like in the upper 30s. So it worked. It
Yeah.
worked. People were very grateful. We would schedule people in 15-minute increments. We were well prepared. Everything was organized so we can facilitate in and out. So yeah, we did that in our parking lot.
Wow.
Um,
And
mhm.
forgive me. And could you explain, in the article, it mentioned that your employees literally were working around the clock, working well past their regular normal working hours just to process these loans. Could you explain?
Sure. So it was kind of like a lottery in the very beginning. Congress passed, I think it was 350 billion,
Mhm.
the first funding phase. It was basically first come, first serve. Um, some of our larger competitors had more customers, and they were allowed to load 10 to 20,000 loans at a shot. So when that happened, basically froze the SBA's website. So one of our employees was probably after 11 at night at her home, tried their website and got in. So the
Wow.
very next night, hey, we know when the website is open. So from basically 11 at night to 6, 7 in the morning, we were able to put in most of our loans.
Wow.
So kudos to my staff.
Yes.
It was all their efforts.
Right. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you very much, Mr. Wainwright. Mr. Kevin Hunt, are you with us? Mr. Hunt? No.
They're another part of my building. I could run
No,
over there.
that's quite all right. Mr. Wainwright, if you don't mind, I would like to direct this question to you.
Sure.
Going forward, as you noted and as Hal noted, many of the banks were not prepared to roll out the $350 billion in PPP loans, and many of the banks were overloaded with applications. Going forward, what steps should small business owners take to assure that they don't get lost in the shuffle?
I think Mr. Shelton kind of alluded to this earlier, is about having relationships with a bank. I think with some of the larger banks, and I'm not bashing other institutions, but they were selective. So in other words, if you had a checking account, a business checking account at an institution, but you didn't have a loan relationship, they didn't serve you,
Right.
and vice versa. We took the position here at our bank. We didn't have that many business customers, so about 90% of our PPP loans
Yeah.
were non-customers.
Well,
They're not necessarily non-customers now, but they were at the time.
right.
We're in a very regulated world, and you have to do a lot of background checks on a prospective customer. And we made those efforts to facilitate the transactions. So yeah, that's what it's called, BSA, Bank Secrecy Act. To prevent money laundering and
Right. Okay,
unscrupulous activities. But
thank you very much. And Ms. Hilary Delamotte, are you with us?
they should be.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Wainwright, I guess you are it, if you don't mind.
That's all right.
One last question. I'm sure that many of your customers are currently facing financial difficulties due to the pandemic. How can Freehold Bank help?
So we have various customers. So we have business customers and we have residential customers or consumers. Um, with the crisis, we've had some of our borrowers, both business and consumers, lose their jobs, or with businesses, they lost revenue. We did some forbearances, whereby your principal and interest, and sometimes your escrow tax payments were suspended for 3 months. So that was the initial. So when it came about 2.5 months, we reached out to those customers and where are you? How are things? 95% of them said we figured out how to go forward. We're getting unemployment. I'm working, part-time, less hours, but I'm making ends meet. So 95% did not ask for an extension of that. Some other services we did, we gave some leniency with overdrafts. We suspended any CD withdrawal penalties. So yeah, we worked with our customers both on the deposit side as well as the the loan side.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Wainwright. I really do appreciate it.
Thank
And now I would like to turn the attention to Saul Galindo and Isis Galindo. Mr. Galindo is the owner and founder of Galindo's Kitchen right here in the heart of Long Branch. Welcome, Saul and Isis. How are you?
Good. We're good. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Good, good. Saul, can you please tell us a little bit about Galindo's Kitchen? What prompted you to start your own business?
What prompted you to start your own business? Okay, I want to answer this question. So, Galindo's Kitchen originally opened in October of 2018. The main idea of Galindo's was to open it as a family business. It was, my mom was going to be the cook and my dad was going to be the waiter, the cashier. So it was going to be a family business, and when after school I would help them out. But then we started getting more and more customers. So we were like, oh, we need more employees. We were going to need employees. So started hiring employees, and here we are.
How many employees were you able to hire at that time, or when business started picking up?
Well, at the beginning, we started with one. I remember that I started with a cook, and my wife moved to the front, as attending customers. And as Isis was saying, everything went out of control because the food was good, I would say. It's not because, it was good. And we started to get more and more customers. So we hired more people, like another helper and then another waitress. And now we are on different, sectors of the business. Like we're working on different, I want to call it departments. It's not departments because it's a small business still. But like, let's say Isis and I, we do the marketing online all the time. And my wife manages the restaurant, like with employees and customers. So we got to, I would say maybe at the end of 2019, we had 4 employees already. And when all this pandemic, started, March, we had to make some changes, because of employees.
Yes, I wanted precisely to ask you, what was the impact of COVID-19 on your restaurant, and how did you and your family respond to the crisis?
Well, it's a little, I mean, it was really hard for me personally. We tried to apply for one of these PPP programs and loans, and we were denied. You know, we didn't qualify for that.
Okay.
So it was really sad, you know, seeing my guys, my team,
Yeah.
my employees, and say to their eyes, I gotta let you off for a couple of weeks probably, or months, or whatever time it takes. And I wasn't going to be able to do it. They're like, when you have a small business, it's like family. That's
Yes.
like a second house. Like you go there, you enjoy with everybody.
Yeah.
So we had to play cards. I'm gonna say it like that. We had to use whatever tools we have at the moment, and we don't have those many tools. But we have to work with. I don't know.
At that time, some employees lived pretty far in Boy, other places, so they were also scared that they could catch the virus. So some of them did lay off for their own good. They asked to, but it was hard to say to some of the employees that had families and know that they had families, and had to
Right.
tell them, I have to lay you off for a couple months because of the pandemic, because the sales dropped from 50 to 60%. So it was really hard.
Right.
That was the
So-
first 2 weeks. I'm sorry. That was
Yeah,
the
no, go
first
ahead.
2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then I was saying, we start working with only tools. Like, let's put it like this: not all the people were on their homes, on their phones. Like mostly, everybody's on their phones, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Sure.
So you have to let people know that you are there, working. And you're serving, so we start working with Facebook and Instagram. We post our ads on it and pay them, just to get a little more sales. And we got it. Actually, we hit the spot, and we started getting, increasing sales like tremendously. And we had to hire more people. On top of our 4 employees, we had to hire more temporary people and workers from the beach. Those fancy restaurants. They came to us and asking for jobs. So we
Wow.
hired temporary employees. I would say 2 or 3 guys, and
Wow.
start making the sales. So we increased our sales from 100 to 150% off, I would say.
Oh my
So we
God.
got a lot of sales, and that was a blessing, actually.
So you were able
Yeah.
to take advantage of a
Yes.
social media to get the word out there that you were still open, that you were still serving the public, and because of that, the sales increased, and you were able to actually hire temporary workers to kind of help you through, the influx of the
Yeah, we had to make a lot of phone calls, actually, because I had to call, like, on the other hand, we had to call like Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and explain, say,
Right.
I need your help. I need you to help me, because
Right.
nobody else, there was no bank, and I don't want to talk about the banks because I have banking here. So it's not their fault, it's my situation, our situation, that we didn't get approved. It's not because of that. It's not personal. It's just the way it is,
Yes.
So we had to call these platforms, companies, and say, I need your help. I need you to help me get more marketing, increase my sales, because I have employees and I have my own expenses. I have the rent and all the, the rest of the expenses. So we increase our sales, and thank God the customers, they help. They help a lot. So
Right.
I'm really thankful for, everybody who was, they were with us at the moment.
Well, I am so glad that you and your family and your second family, your team members, were able to pull together and survive this, this current crisis. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience with our community. Now, I would like to ask the audience, do you have any questions for our panelists?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hi, Michael. Michael
How are you?
Siriani, correct? Hi, how are you,
Siriani.
Michael?
I'm with the Long Branch Chamber of Commerce. I'm the executive director. And I just to Dr. Mama, Dean Mama, just wanted to add more in regards to the PPP loan and also to the banker. I moved into that position in November. And when the PPP loans came out and afterwards the other loans, I found it very frustrating trying to find my paperwork. And I come from a family restaurant. My family had a business in West End. And if I needed to find my receipts, you know, and we're talking family restaurant, if I needed to find my receipts or documentation or paperwork, forget it. You know, it's not going to happen. So having your paperwork in line is a big must. You have to be very organized. When the first PPP loan came out, I had the former executive director come in. We had a list. We pulled all the documents. But because I wasn't born with a computer chip in my head, the other stumbling was maneuvering through the application online. Sounds real easy, but I know some establishments may not have the ability to scan and load their computer. So I have this document, how do I get it in there? So those are some issues I think some small business people might run into. I ran into because I'm hearing who got the PPP loans, and coming from a corporate world in my other life, they have accounting departments. They have accountants on retainer, and it's like, here, apply for me, you know? So, and those are the big guys who are pulling in the big bucks, and the little guy got lost. The other thing, just to back up, I'm very frustrated right now because I can't get ink for my printers at work and at my home. And we're gonna see a lot of trickle down situations. I went to buy ink for my home printer, and I had to order it and wait a week. And I'm trying to get ink for the small printers that we have at the chamber office, and Staples.com is out of stock. So everyone working at home is pulling in the resources and taking from there. The other thing I'll end with is, on the news the other night, they were talking about a men's dress, a men's suit store, and they're complaining because now people are going to be working at home. They're not going to be needing as many suits. So they're looking at their industry going down. So this whole scenario of COVID-19 is going to affect a lot of businesses. And I think, Mike, personally, we're just seeing the beginning of the trickle down. It's really, we're going to turn around and see, oh my God, they're in trouble now. It's going to be that type of a scenario. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, Michael, I totally agree with you. I think this whole thing has, it's made me think outside the box in a lot of ways, right? So I was not a proponent of doing social work education online, right? Because I'm a social worker. I feel like I need to be in the same room with people.
You need to see and
read nonverbal behavior, all of that stuff.
Right.
But we had to do it. And so, you know, I'm now totally, we can do it. We can do online. We can do even clinical work online. We've put our macro concentration, which is global and community practice, as a totally online concentration in the master's program to allow for people from everywhere to be able to access that. But that's the piece. It's the consequences that's going to come from this. As we think about it, employers are not going to need a lot of real estate. We're going to question how many people we need in an office. I mean, even at Monmouth, we had people working from home I don't need my secretary in 5 days a week. You know, as we come back into the fall, we've already decided we'll have one person in the office each day, and that's it, right? We don't need 4 of us.
That's it.
So I think that both the supply chain issue and then the trickle-down consequences of the impact, we haven't seen the last of it yet.
Exactly. Thank you, Doc.
There's another example for that at SCORE. We always thought that face-to-face, in-person mentoring was the gold standard, and everybody should come to an office and do it. We haven't been in the office now in months. We do mostly Zoom, and in fact, SCORE clients like it better, get higher scores. And it's not only because it's more convenient, but each of us is in our own comfort space. We're in our home, and we feel more comfortable. We're not going to a strange location. And so that's working out very well. I'm working with a number of companies, maybe 10, 15 employees working from home, and some of them are not renewing their leases when they come up for their office, and they're just going to be completely remote companies.
Great. Does anyone in the audience have any other questions for our panelists? No? I actually have one last question, and this is an open question to any or all of the panelists. Do you think there are any unexpected silver linings that could result from this situation?
I think there are. I mean, I think, and more numbers of people have said to me, one of the silver linings is the ability to spend time with family. We're rethinking how we do that as well. You know, lots of us have had family members come and live with us for a little bit, or people who have children or grandchildren are seeing their children and grandchildren more, right? Because they're not going out to work, they have more ability to do that. So there is that. Someone just yesterday said to me, we've had more board game nights than we've ever had before. So I think there are that. The clinic at Monmouth that we just created, we in social work have wanted for years and years and years to have a community clinic that we could have services for the community and have our students learn, you know, through their internships, how to do those, how to do counseling and other things related to that. And the university was reluctant to do it because we'd need space, we'd need liability insurance, we'd need all those things. We were able to create this telehealth clinic with the university's blessing within a month. And, you know, we started in April, we had the students in their class in May, and they learned how to start a small business. We had them start by, you know, creating paperwork, creating the website, creating the marketing, you know, doing what they needed to do for this. And so there are things like that, I think, that will come of this, not just in telehealth, but in all kinds of things. Maybe even people's relationship with each other and how we reach out to people in terms of our community and think about people. We're thinking about people more than we did before. Lots of people are reaching out to their neighbors or older people they know to see if they're okay or those kinds of things. So I think there are some silver linings in this. And certainly early on, we saw that, you know, our carbon footprint on the world without have plane travel and car travel and everything else, we were seeing animals and, you know, blue sky and stars and other kinds of things for the first time in some places. So that's also nice.
Great.
One of the things that is demonstrated that the world is uncertain. And so now this was caused by an external force that was basically dumped on us. And as Saul and others could say, and this is how I reacted. But I think the lesson learned is how to be prepared for next time, which we don't know what next time is. And it's either going to be something like this, where it's another event. You know, we had the Great Recession before, but it also could be internal. You have a fire in your building, a key employee or key customer leaves, or something happens to you, and how is your business going to survive? And you don't want to wait until those events happen and learn from this experience of how to be prepared.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I see someone has their hand up. Do you have a question for our panelists? I'm sorry, I can't see your name. DHOH? Did you want to ask a question? No? Hello? Oh, okay, I guess not. Let me just double check and see. Any other questions for our panelists before we go? No? Oh, wait, Wendy? Wendy,
Yeah.
you need, oh, there you go, Wendy. Hi, Wendy, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'd like to thank all the panelists. This has been very interesting. It's been great. I am a nurse, and there's some things that I've worked from home since 1988, and I actually work in the community. And I have a hard time if I need to go into an office for 5 days a week. It's too distracting, too much going on. People are talking to me. So working from home has been my MO for decades. And I can see how people would actually, it would be a big change, but how it would actually become the preferred place of work. I just wondered if, Dr. Mama, if you could tell me, in my practice, I might be able to refer people to your telehealth clinic. How would we do that?
Sure. I can actually put the website in the chat for you.
Okay.
Because, and it's a free clinic. If you refer someone, there's a phone number. Well, you'll see on the website, there's a phone number, as well as an email, and the person can respond either way. And then Dr. Ellie Maza, who is one of our associate professors and used to work for many years at Monmouth Medical Center in the outpatient mental health clinic, is the person who screens all the calls, and then she helps to figure out which student this person should see. The students who are doing this, they are listed on the website along with their background. These are all adults who have been in social work for years. They just didn't have their master's degree. So they've got a good number of experience, and they're both men and women there. So I think what Ellie sometimes does is she asks the potential client, look at the website and see if there's someone who, you feel more drawn to because of their experience, and then she hooks them up. And then the student and the client would meet by Zoom. It's actually in a teletherapy platform. It's called TheraPlatform. And they meet online in that way. But I'll put that into the chat. We welcome anyone. If you think anyone is in need of counseling in any way, please feel free to refer them. We'd love to have them come in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our panelists? No. Well, that pretty much concludes our roundtable for today. I would like to thank all of our panelists, Hal Shelton, Dr. Robin Mama, Mr. James Wainwright from Freehold Bank, and Saul and Isis Galindo of Galindo's Kitchen for taking the time to share their expertise and valuable advice with our community. Your insights are particularly crucial at a time when so many small business owners are still struggling. Thank you so much for helping make our roundtable so rewarding.
Yes, turtle.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for setting it all up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hal.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Yep, thanks again.
Again, I want to remind everyone that this roundtable was being recorded. So if anyone is interested in a copy of the recording, just please reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to comply with that. And Dean Mama put up the website. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a real pleasure. I really do hope all of you join us. This is a monthly roundtable, and I will be sending out reminder emails to our community to announce our next roundtable if you are interested. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mariella.
All right, thank you, Alice. Goodbye.